Hi friends! These are going to be some notes on the 8 effective speaker qualities, so make sure you make a new spot in your notes and title it the 8 effective speaker qualities, and you're going to want to write down some of the things that we talk about today, and also you might want to write down some of the examples I give. They're not written necessarily always in the PowerPoint, but I'm going to explain some. If examples help you, consider writing those down. Pause this video at any time and take note of the things that you think are going to be helpful for you, because you're going to want to go back on this stuff eventually. The 8 effective speaker qualities start with sincerity as number 1. Speakers must believe what they say. So a lot of times when people choose topics for their speeches, they choose topics that they think are going to be easy, or that they've done before, or that they think their friends are going to like. If you are not interested in the topic that you're talking about, it's going to be obvious to the audience. Please choose topics that you really care about and that you're passionate about, because the audience is just going to be bored if you're bored. You want to talk about your topic like you care about it. The listeners need to believe that you care about what you're talking about. I speak differently probably about friends than I do about math class. If I'm giving a presentation, I want to give it on books or friends or my dogs. I don't want to give a presentation on something like a science experiment that I don't know a whole lot about. I had a professor in college who told us that students can smell insincerity. That's what they warned us. I was going to school, obviously, to be a teacher, and the professor was trying to explain to us that if you aren't sincere about your topic and you don't care so much about what it is that you're teaching, your kids are not going to care. The audience won't care about something that you're bored by yourself. I actually have to work really hard when I teach Greek mythology, like when we read the Odyssey. We teach the Odyssey in 9th grade, and I have to work harder at teaching that and being enthusiastic about it, because it's not my favorite thing to teach. I love To Kill a Mockingbird. So when I get to teach To Kill a Mockingbird, I have a lot of enthusiasm and I'm really excited about it. But sometimes I'm faking it a little bit more with the Odyssey. I don't know if you can tell or not. Bentley, be quiet, please. I'm busy. Okay. Effective quality number 2 is knowledge. Speakers should know enough about the subject to make it worthwhile for the people listening. You need to be knowledgeable and educated on your topic. If you're not, the audience is going to get bored. If you're only explaining surface level information, people are going to be like, why am I bothering listening to this? Because this is stuff I already know. For example, it was a couple years ago, I had a person doing a presentation on dogs, and it was really basic. They did their entire informative speech on dogs, which I love dogs, and it was something that I care about and can relate to. The problem was that I didn't learn anything. They talked about how to walk a dog, how to take care of a dog, and I think that most people kind of understand how to do that. So if you're not going to impart new information on your audience, they might become bored and your topic isn't that interesting. You need to be an expert on what you're talking about. If you're going to teach us about Taekwondo, that's not something that everyone understands. You're teaching us all these skills and facts that we probably don't already know ourselves, and we're going to come away having learned something. So be educated on your topic. When I first started teaching, my units would go a lot faster. Like when I first started teaching novels, my units would go so much quicker because I wasn't as knowledgeable on the novels as I am now that I've been teaching them longer. Now the units sometimes last longer than they did before because I can talk more about them. I'm more educated. I've learned more the more years I've taught them. So I think it's better for the audience when they can learn more and they feel like they've come away with something, some sort of understanding once you're done talking. If you don't seem knowledgeable, your audience is going to just be bored with you. If you've ever had a teacher that didn't seem knowledgeable in the content they were teaching you, you don't feel like it's valuable. You feel like it's a waste of your time. The next one is organization. You need to have a purpose and you need to be organized. This is the point of having speech outlines. Actually, every time you give a speech, you should outline it first before you actually start writing it and practicing it. So when I was in high school, I did a health presentation on the pros and cons of cosmetic animal testing because I was very passionate about the idea that animals should not be tested on. The problem was my presentation was titled The Pros and Cons of Cosmetic Animal Testing. And I didn't realize until later when my teacher told me. I only talked about the cons of cosmetic animal testing in my presentation. Um, that's bad because I left out the pros, and that's obviously what my presentation was called. That was not being organized. I did a bad job of organizing because I really should have just done the cons of cosmetic animal testing if that's all I was going to talk about. Also, I decided my purpose was to inform people of the pros and cons of cosmetic animal testing. And what I really ended up doing was persuading them that it was bad. And so I clearly didn't have my speech well planned and well organized in my head before I went. That ended up being a problem for me, and I didn't get as good of a grade as I could have. So it's something to think about. Be organized, plan ahead, know exactly what your topic is. Really organize it before you give it. The next one is listening. It's really important to listen to your audience and to be a good listener, to be a good speaker and a good writer and a good communicator. This might seem weird. I remember I took a listening class in college and it was all online, which is actually kind of funny. But if the audience ever asks you a question, you need to be able to listen and understand what they're asking you so that you can answer it appropriately. You also need to be able to feed off your audience. If your audience laughs at something that you say, you should be kind of laughing with them. If they're smiling, you should be smiling with them. If they seem bored, if they look bored, if they're giving you the illusion that they're bored, hopefully you can do something to engage them a little bit more in that moment and kind of do something off the top of your head to fix it. Notice what your audience is telling you with their eyes, their body movements, and feed off of it. Follow them, just like if you're a teacher and they're your students, respond with them, talk with them, get them to pay attention to you. Listen to what your audience is trying to tell you. Confidence. Confidence is so important, and it's one of the things that I gave a lot of feedback about after your impromptu speeches. A speaker must feel sure about themselves when speaking and convey that confidence to an audience. If you don't seem confident, we're not going to trust you. We're not going to believe you. And it's sad because public speaking isn't easy. It's a difficult thing to do. But public speakers who seem confident, even if they're not, if they seem confident, they're much more well respected by an audience. An audience is going to listen to you, show more enthusiasm for what you're saying, so much more if they believe that you're confident in what you're saying. If you don't seem confident in your topic or what you're talking about or being up in front of people, people lose interest right away. Confidence is, I think, one of the most important parts about giving a speech. Even if you're not confident, work on showing that you are. By the way you stand, by the way you use your hands, by the way you speak loudly, good tone, volume. Convey that confidence even if you don't feel it. I used to not ever read out loud to my students, especially with some of those novels in 10th grade that we've read. I didn't always feel comfortable reading out loud to kids because, what if I'm not a good reader? What if I mess up? What if they don't want to hear my voice for such a long period of time? I didn't feel confident, and I didn't look confident when I did it. Now that I've been doing it more, I totally feel fine doing it now. So it's one of those things that if you can practice speaking more, you're going to gain more confidence. Even if it's just talking to a neighbor, talking to somebody near you who you don't know, introducing yourself, raising your hand in class, talking to a teacher. Anytime you can practice having confidence and practice going out of your comfort zone and practice speaking, it's going to help you build that confidence. The next one is language. A speaker's choice of words is crucial. Words must be chosen to fit the audience and the occasion. You need to know your audience, so you probably shouldn't use slang words like, let's see, cringy and lit, BRB. If you're giving your presentation to an older generation, they're not going to understand that. Plus, it takes away credibility and professionalism. So slang words should probably not be used. Words must be chosen to fit the audience and the occasion. Avoid using inside jokes if you're trying to present to an audience, because inside jokes might be funny to the one or two friends that you have in class, but they're not funny to everybody, more than likely. At my wedding, my husband's best man gave his speech, and not gonna lie, it wasn't very good, but don't tell him I said that. He kept telling inside jokes about him and Mike, and I was like, people here don't know what you're talking about. So it kind of just failed. If people can't understand what you're trying to say, they're going to struggle. Also, I have actually had people give speeches about things like technology and like really in-depth science stuff or math stuff that I don't really know anything about. If you are using vocabulary that is too high intellect for the people in the classroom, you're going to lose them. If you're not using vocabulary that's relatable, you're going to lose people. If I can't follow what you're saying, it's going to be hard for the audience. Make sure that if you're going to do a topic that is very intellectual and intense, you have to do a really good job of explaining yourself. Don't go off on your topic and assume that we already know a lot of stuff, because we might not. If you're teaching us about hunting, I don't know that much about hunting, and there might be things when you're talking about guns and stuff that I have no idea what you mean. You might just really have to slow it down and not go over our heads. Explain to us what you mean, go in depth so that we understand and we can follow you. Choice of words is important. Nonverbal communication. So speakers must have effective use of gestures and eye contact. If you are fidgety and you're touching stuff or you're touching your rings, it's distracting. Use appropriate gestures, right? Point to the screen if you need to. If you're pointing to a visual aid, use your hands to do that. Explain sizes of things with your hands. Gesture to somebody if you need to, but be careful about fidgeting. Eye contact is really important. I one time went to dinner with my husband, and the table next to us, a guy started talking to Mike, my husband, and he didn't make eye contact with me once. And I thought that was so rude. If you're not making eye contact with everybody in the room and you're not like looking at them actually in their eyes, they're going to feel like you're not being sincere, and they're going to feel like you're being nervous. They're going to feel like you're not talking to them personally. So look at people, look at your audience, and be okay with it. I know it's hard, but work on looking at people in the eyes when you talk to them. Okay, so you need to have a goal. Set a goal. If you don't have a goal for every single speech, then you're probably going to miss the point of your speech when you're giving it. If you really want us to learn something by the time that you're done with your presentation, then make sure you know what you want us to learn, and then you can make sure you hit that goal throughout your speech. Always ask yourself, what's the goal of the speech? You should want your audience to walk away with something. So by the time your speech is done, you should hope that your audience is going to have learned this, or they're going to be persuaded of this, or they're going to be super well informed on this. If we don't learn anything from you, we are going to wonder why we wasted our time listening to you. Make sure the experience is worthwhile for your audience. Make them want to be there. Make them glad that they are listening to your speech. I want you to just think about these questions. Which skill is easiest to develop and which is most difficult? Which skill is easiest to observe and which is most difficult? Which skill should be focused on the most for this class? You don't have to necessarily write these down, but think about them, ponder the ideas. Hopefully this is helpful for you. You're going to want to go back on some of these things, especially when you're outlining your speech and writing your speech. You're going to want to make sure that you have all 8 of the effective speaker qualities. So, thank you so much for listening. I hope it was super effective and I was a quality speaker. Have a great day.